Welcome in, listener. You're listening to a segment from the Slumpbuster podcast with Ju-Ju Dre. Find the full episode on Spotify, iTunes, the Google Play Store, or our YouTube channel. Enjoy.
Last week, unfortunately, Dre, you got the advantage on me here. You beat me by a game here. So Dre went 10-5 last week. I went 9-6. We went ahead and washed the Detroit-Arizona game from the record just because it was a tie. So technically, no one was wrong, no one was right. It just is what it is, a disappointment because who likes to see ties in the NFL? Going into this week, needless to say, we both picked Carolina. We were both wrong on Carolina this week. They went and lost 14-20 to the Tampa Bay Bucks. I guess in just recapping this game a little bit here, what do you think of Carolina's decision to not give the ball to Cam on that pivotal 4th and 1 to end the game?
I think some of it sort of says that they don't see Cam as sort of that game winner for them anymore, right? Because if you really believe that Cam is sort of this game winner, this transformational talent, that he's going to be the one to get you back into games, right? If we contrast it with Drew Brees in the Houston's game, he was able to pull them sort of out of that slump and get them that win in Monday night's game. But here we're seeing that maybe they're not trusting as much in Cam Newton, though CMC, I would definitely trust that dude. He's looked like a monster, especially since he's put on weight. But I wonder if they're slowly starting to move off of Cam Newton, if they're starting to lose that trust in him.
I think it's just, you're right. They are trusting their best offensive player in Run CMC because, I mean, he's just been so dynamic for them. But in years past, 4th and 1, that big body that is Cam Newton, you expect him to just fly over the top of that line and get you that first down. So it's disappointing for them. I can't believe Carolina is honestly 0-2. I had them maybe as a sneaky playoff team. I had them finishing 8-8 in our division preview, but I thought that was underselling them as a team. So we'll see if they could bounce back. It's disappointing for Cam and Ron Rivera too, who may be in the hot seat.
Real quick too is, I mean, Tampa Bay is not that great of a team this year, especially how bad they looked in their first game. And maybe they're better than we had thought after their first loss, but I don't see Tampa Bay as being this outstanding team right now. Especially, I thought they would be better with Arians as their coach. And so I'm a little bit worried for Carolina and Ron Rivera, right? I think they might continue to slide. Hopefully not, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see on that one. Moving into this Sunday's games, though, first game to start off the slate. Let's see if you make the same mistake of doubting Jimmy G again. So San Francisco is heading into Cincinnati. They are a 1-point underdog in this matchup. I'm going to have them winning this game. They stayed on the East Coast, so I think that at least they won't struggle from the same kind of issues that a lot of teams do when they travel from the West to the East. So that's going to save them in the morning game. In fact, Cincinnati has had to put in more travel this week, having to go to Seattle and back. So I'm going to be intrigued, but I'm going to go ahead and give San Francisco the 2-0 start here.
So, you know what? Just to be contrarian to you, I'm going to take Cincinnati. I do know that AJ Green's still out, and they've got some players that are banged up and injured. Andy Dalton looked good, though. I'm going to take Cincinnati. They're playing at home. I still don't trust Jimmy G all that much. I know that you guys were able to win the last time, but I'm still doubting you guys. I'll take Cincy.
Okay, next game in our lineup, we are looking at the Chargers. They are going into Detroit this week, so Detroit's obviously coming in with a 0-0-1 record, whereas the Chargers came up big and beat Indianapolis last week, albeit no one expected that game to go into overtime. What's your pick, Aundre?
I'm going to go the Chargers. I think they still just have a whole lot of weapons. I'm thinking that last week was sort of just a wake-up call, shaking the rust off from a long break right after last season. And so I think they'll be ready to go. I'm taking the Chargers.
Do you think they covered the line? I almost forgot to. So in the San Francisco-Cincinnati game, 1-point line, do you think they cover?
I think they cover. I mean, it's hard not to, but I think they cover.
Okay, and then Chargers-Detroit, a 2.5-point line.
Still think they cover.
Okay, gotcha. So Harris is going to be mad at me this week, but I'm actually going to pick them to lose in Detroit, picking them as a upset pick. It's going to be their home opener. And again, same issues traveling west to east. That is nothing to dismiss when it comes to NFL travel. So moving on to our next game, divisional matchup, we have Minnesota at Green Bay. So Green Bay got to start this season with 2 tough divisional games. This week, though, they get to do it at home in Lambeau. Now, the question I have with this one is, does Kirk Cousins' futility against winning teams still count if the team's only 1-0?
I think it might. Like, I really have not been that impressed with Kirk Cousins. I know he came out and said, like, hey, I know I need to do better in order to get this team to the Super Bowl. That's why they brought me in. And that is why the team brought them in, is they thought, hey, we can get so close with Case Keenum, right? We can probably do even better with Kirk Cousins, and it just hasn't panned out. That being said, I'm going to take Minnesota in this one.
I'm going to go with Green Bay. I think that they should be able to do that, and I think they're going to cover their spread as well. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a gritty game. Division games always are, but I liked what I saw from the Packers last week. All right, another division matchup here. Indianapolis is going into Tennessee this week, so Tennessee is coming off just absolute dismantling of the Cleveland Browns in that hype machine. And then, like I said, Indianapolis, they played well in their first game without Andrew Luck, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep that up. With that said, I love Tennessee's defense. I think they're going to swarm Jacoby Brissett. So I'm going to take Tennessee, and I'm going to go ahead and give them the over on this one. It's a 3-point line right now.
I totally agree. I think Tennessee looked really good, right? And maybe we just overhyped the Browns. I know Colin Cowherd, right? I don't take a lot of what he says too serious. I think sometimes he just tends to sort of get a rouse out of people, but he does have some good insights. And for a long time, he'd been saying, hey, the Browns are overhyped, right? They weren't that great last year, and especially the year before, they weren't very good. And so it's hard to go from being historically not good to being a playoff and even a Super Bowl contention team, which he's been saying it for a while. We'll see if it comes to fruition, his full, sort of projection. That being said, though, I think there is something to say about the talent that the Browns have, right? They are one of the most talented teams in the league, and Tennessee just sort of handled them, right, and made it look easy. And so I think Tennessee wins this week as well. I think I'll take the over.
Okay, so the largest line of this week is New England. They're heading into Miami, so I don't think there's enough Miami miracles to save the Dolphins this week. It's going to be an 18.5-point line. Now, here's the thing I'll say. Obviously, I'm picking New England to win this game, but I'm actually going to take the under on this points because when it comes to NFL games, this is just way too high, especially division games. New England always struggles on this trip for whatever reason. They might win it by a couple touchdowns, but 18.5, I'm not going to buy into that line.
Okay, so I'm taking New England, obviously, as well. And if Baltimore can hang 55 on Miami, I definitely think New England can. I get what you're saying about they always struggle in division games, no matter how weak the division is, are always a little bit tricky, and there's always extra rivalry there. But I think they easily cover that spread. I'll take the over.
I just learned my lesson last year after Buffalo went into Minnesota with like a 20-plus point line, and the Bills handled them. It's just one of those things about sports betting. Whenever you see a line this big, you just have to be wary of it. Moving onward, we have Buffalo. They are the 2-point favorite heading into the New York Giants. So 2 points, I feel like that's a bit of a modest line here. But they are going on the road, so I understand it a little bit. And the Giants actually played all right. Not too bad. So this could be – but I do believe Buffalo is going to beat a New York team for the second week in a row. I'm picking them, and I'm picking the points.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Even though they're playing away, I think Buffalo is just the overall better team. Right, I'm hoping Saquon for my fantasy pops off, but other than that, I think Buffalo has sort of the edge on them. I also take them to cover.
Okay, fantastic. 12th man action is going to go on the road this week, and they're going to head into Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh's obviously coming off that ugly Sunday night game. And then Seattle, they had a bit of an interesting week, so they weren't expecting Cincinnati to come out as guns a-blazing as they did, especially on their own home turf. Seattle always struggles away from home, whereas Pittsburgh always is successful when they are playing on their home field as well. I'm going to take home Ben, and I think a 3-point line is reasonable for this game, so I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh, like you said, they had an awful loss, which I told you would happen, right? So that's my one up over you is that Pittsburgh game right there. Is they always struggle against the Patriots. But that being said, they generally rebound pretty good, especially when they lose early in the season. This is a team that historically doesn't stay bad for very long, and they usually rebound pretty well. The things that I am worried about, right, is you can sort of see now that Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell were definitely sort of the real deal for him. Like there was talent there, and anytime you lose talent, it's tough. That being said, I don't expect Pittsburgh to lose at home. Seattle did struggle a little bit, like you said last week. I'll take Pittsburgh. And I agree with you. I'm going to take the under. I think it's going to be a 3-point game.
Going on to the nation's capital, the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, are heading in there to face the Redskins. So always a rivalry game. They have this, Vegas has this at a 6-point line right now, but man, the Cowboys really look good in week 1 against the Giants. I hate to say it, but Dak Prescott having a perfect passer rating, obviously he can only go backwards from there, but all the weapons on that team, whether it be Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, Zeke had his worst game, and I just think that he has to run off some of those margaritas from Cabo. But I'm going to go ahead and take Dallas over here, and I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm going to take Dallas. I'm going to take the over. They looked really good. I do think they're slightly overrated right now, right? Is a lot of people have said, at least in power rankings and what their thoughts are of the Giants, is that the Giants are the second worst team, right? With Miami being the worst team. And we didn't give that much benefit of the doubt to Baltimore, who dismantled the worst team. Whereas Dallas looked very good, right, against the Giants. Didn't quite beat them 55-10 like Baltimore did. But then all of a sudden, everybody's sort of overrating Dallas and saying, they're Super Bowl bound. So I don't think they're Super Bowl bound, but I do think they look very good. And I think they have, the chance at still winning their division. That being said, I'm going to take Dallas in this game. I'm going to take the over.
Speaking of quarterbacks with perfect passer ratings, God, I'm going to have to really eat my words when it comes to Lamar Jackson, or at least he made it seem like it against the Miami Dolphins. So Arizona is heading all the way to Baltimore this week, and they are 13-point dogs. So, again, Arizona, the other side of that tie the other week. So they looked awful in the first half, and they really pulled it together in the fourth quarter. And obviously Baltimore didn't really have much of a game. I'm actually going to say the under on this one, although I'm going to take Baltimore because I kind of believe that Baltimore might come out a little bit flat coming off such a high week 1. And I think that's going to show. And Kyler Murray, he started to figure it out in the fourth quarter. And I think that could only continue ideally, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And shout out to Kyler Murray, right? To have that bad of a start and still be able to come back, and they didn't win the game, but they tied it, right? Is very commendable in my opinion. And that takes some good mental toughness that not a lot of people have, right? Especially if it's your first ever NFL start and you're off to that bad of a start in your first game, and yet you're still able to pull yourself out of that sort of lull and that slump. So you're a slump buster, how to throw that in there, right? And be able to still come out with a tie with one of the worst teams. A lot of people had said, hey, this is one of the worst rosters, maybe outside of Miami, and to still be able to come back in that game, I 100% appreciate it. But that being said, I'm going to take Baltimore. They just looked too good last week. Again, they beat a very bad Miami team that right now is probably just tanking, but I still think Baltimore wins this game, especially at home. You took the under?
Yeah, I'm going to take the under. I think 13 is a bit of a high line, and like I said, they coming off such a peak last week that can only regress from there.
Yeah, I agree with you, but just to be slightly different, I'll take the over.
It's just a big week for division games, too. Another AFC South matchup. So Jacksonville is heading into Houston this week. So Jacksonville, unfortunately, they lost their quarterback for the year, and we mentioned it during the division preview as well, that Nick Foles had never played a full 16-game season, and lo and behold, he breaks his collarbone in week 1. So Gardner Minshew is stepping into this game, and he actually looked pretty good, if I'm going to be honest. But it's still first NFL start against this Houston team. It's going to be Houston, and it's not going to be all that close, too. I'm going to take the over on an 8.5-point line. Houston definitely might want to mercy roll them coming off that Monday night game because I can't imagine they're too happy with the way that game ended. Best game of the year, by the way. I just want to throw that out there.
Oh, yeah. It was a fantastic ending. Exciting all around. I think Houston is also being severely underrated, right? So it's sort of the opposite of what happened with Dallas. Is Dallas beat a bad team, and they look very good. Don't get me wrong, right? I think they're going to make the playoffs. But I think we overrated Dallas in that we're like, oh, now they're going to be in the top 10, right? Top 5. I've even seen some people put them. And then Houston, I've seen a lot of people dock them to where they're almost in the bottom 10 of the league, which I think there's no way, especially with how good New Orleans is. We know how good Drew Brees can be. And it sucks that they weren't able to maintain their lead, especially because, Deshaun Watson, I mean, what more do you have to do as a quarterback, right? Like the dude is a winner. He can get his team a nice lead into the fourth quarter, right? Even on, close to a game-winning drive. And then it's just his team ends up blowing it, right? His defenses blow it for him. So I feel bad for him. He's also been sacked a ton of times. So Deshaun Watson, I just want you to know I value you. Hopefully Houston can get you some more protection and a good line so you're not wore out, too quickly. But I'm going to take Houston. I'm going to take the over.
For the record, we currently both have Houston in our power rankings. I currently have them sitting at 10. You currently have them at 5. A little bit of a disparity, but I think it's just hard to rank them over teams that did start off week 1 with a victory.
Yeah, but I think not every victory and every loss is the same, in my opinion, right? So you can lose to a really good team and look very good. And to me, like, you either stay where you're at or you even move up possibly in power rankings, where you can be a very bad team. And to me, I don't move you up that much.
Well, shameless plug for the slumpbuster.com. Go there for our weekly power rankings. We'll put them out every, let's say Tuesday.
Okay.
Now, let's see here. This is not going to be a good one. Kansas City is going into Oakland. Now, I know they lost Tyreek Hill, so that's something. And Oakland's coming off a surprising week. So we both had them losing Denver, coming off like the emotional struggles they've had to deal with the whole Antonio Brown saga. But with that said, like, Kansas City's the best team in the league. Well, okay, there's New England. We did rank New England as number 1 in our power rankings, but Kansas City's the best offense in the league, and this defense is not going to be able to contain them. So a 7-point line, even on the road, I think is way too low. I'm going to go ahead and pick Kansas City in the over.
100% agree. I know that, Oakland is probably less distracted now since he who shall not be named is gone, right? But still, Kansas City is just too much firepower for a team that's still in rebuilding mode. Honestly, I think Oakland is stuck between still trying to tank, but also be decent enough to at least attract people in Vegas. But they're basically a tanking team too. I'm going to take Kansas City, and I'll take the over.
And to add to that, when you consider trying to contain a passing attack, they also lost their starting safety in Jonathan Abrams, wishing the best, hope he gets well soon. In our next game, we have Chicago. They are heading to the Mile High City. So Chicago is currently a 2-point favorite. Coming off that disappointing opening night, it's going to be interesting. So them and Green Bay had the longest layoff of any team this week, so they had the most time to prepare for this game. And Denver is coming off a short week, just playing on Monday. So right now, all the factors are lining up in Chicago's favor, so I can understand why they're the favorites. I'm kind of conflicted, too, because I like Denver to have a bounce back. Where are you going? I'll let you choose first on this one.
I'm going to go Chicago. I think Trubisky's going to have a better game. Though I don't know if he'll get back to the form he was in last season. I think he's still limited as a quarterback. I do like Chicago's defense is just so good, and I think Flacco is not the answer, right, in Denver. So I'm going to take Chicago, and I'm going to take the over.
I'm actually going to go with Denver. I just think that Mile High is a tough place to play, and I do think that there is something to Vic Fangio playing against Mitch Trubisky. Like, he was the defensive coordinator in Chicago the last 2 years, so if anyone has the tape on Mitch, it's Vic. So I'm going to go ahead and pick them to have a bounce back week. I'm going with Denver. In our next game, so this should be a fun one from a narrative point of view. The Rams are going to be hosting the New Orleans Saints. So this is the first time these teams have matched up since the infamous no call in the NFC Championship game, which, by the way, on a side note, I am already sick of this challenging of non-pass interference calls. I've already seen like 4 or 5 examples that just go nowhere and waste time. So I'm over it. But in terms of the game, the New Orleans Saints, they're not the same Saints team that they are at home in the Superdome, and they did barely skate by the Houston Texans this week. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Rams and the over.
Yeah, so I think the New Orleans Saints, especially going on the road against a really good team, right, the Rams, they're still obviously a very good team. They've got a very good defense. Their offense didn't look as sharp as it normally does last week, but they still have all their offensive weapons, really. I'm going to take the Rams, and, man, I think it's going to be right on. I think it's going to be right around 2 points.
2 points, yeah. There's not too many point outcomes, I think, that like fit under that ratio.
I know. That's the hard thing with these lines, right? Is like if it's a 1 point game, or if it's anything off of 3 points, right? Because there's a field goal. But I think it's going to be right around there. If I do take the over, it's not going to be by much, right? I think it's going to be within like 3-4 points.
We have the Eagles going into Atlanta this week. This right now is sitting at a 2-point line. So Philly, they started pretty slow against Washington, which was a bit surprising to a lot of people. And then Atlanta just came out with no firepower at all against Minnesota. they got decimated out on the road by that power run game that the Vikings have been working on. I don't know. Philly on the road Sunday night, it's going to be a bit of a tough one. Julio Jones has been able to wreck the secondary. I think I'm actually going to go with Atlanta.
Oh, okay. I was going to take Atlanta if you didn't take Atlanta, but again, just to sort of conflict a little bit, I'll take Philly in this one. I do think you're right. They look really good, right? And Matt Ryan's a fantastic quarterback. Julio Jones looked good. I think Carson Wentz, though, he sort of woke up in that second half. So I was a little bit worried that he was going to look as bad as he did in the first half for the whole season. But even me, I was in one of my fantasy leagues, I was playing against Carson Wentz going into halftime. I was winning. I was projected to win that game, but I knew, I was like, oh no, Carson Wentz is going to pop off. Sure enough, he did. He looks good. He's back to form. And if he continues to play like that, I think Philly's going to be a really tough team to beat. So I'll take them. And I think they cover.
All right. So this one, I guess you could consider either the Colin Cowherd Bowl, the Mono Bowl, whatever you want to discuss. But the line in this game has changed quite substantially just based off what we found out happened to young quarterback Sam Darnold. Did you really – I just got to ask, before we go into this actual game, mono still a thing?
It's when you kiss too many girls, Ju-Ju. That's what happens,
Okay, but he didn't catch it the entire time he was in Los Angeles. I mean, LA, New York, they're both, But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe he kissed a rat or something. I don't know. I'm just kidding. He did not. So
one of the best conspiracy theories I have read for this game so far, the New England Patriots have not made a deal with the New York Jets in Bill Belichick's entire tenure, ever since he did that one-day contract with the Jets and everything like that. And then this week, they trade Demaryius Thomas conveniently to those New York Jets. Now, I'm not saying that I believe in these rumors, because partially I don't buy into the idea that Bill Belichick traded Demaryius Thomas to the Jets just to make out with Sam Darnold. It just seems a little bit obscure to me.
Is that what the theory is? Is that he sent him over there just to make out with Sam Darnold? That's actually a pretty funny one, though. And what if it happened? What if it wasn't even a makeout session? Like, it was maybe one of those weird handshake hug things, and Demaryius brushed his lips against Sam Darnold and just oh, sorry, my bad, dude, and then spread it that way.
You think it'd be mafia style where he kissed both cheeks?
Yeah, kiss of death right there. Kiss both cheeks, and Sam Darnold's out for indefinite, right? We don't know how long, and sometimes it takes people a while to rebound from mono.
Get a cooler STD, Sam. Come on. Anyway, it's the actual game, so it's hard to not pick the Browns, just given that we know that the Jets aren't going in with their starting quarterback. Disappointing for the Jets season, because if Sam Darnold is going to miss multiple weeks, they're coming around the roughest part of the schedule. They might have lost those games anyway, but this was probably one of the one wins that they were hoping they might have been able to pull down. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Cleveland, and just because, again, backup quarterback, I'm going to go ahead and take the over.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm going to take Cleveland. I'm going to take the over. And like I said before, Cleveland is still one of the most talented teams in the league. It does seem like they've been overrated slightly, right? They may turn things around throughout the season, and who knows? I still have them going to the playoffs, but right now, Cleveland, I think, is just going to be too much for New York to handle, especially with Sam Darnold, obviously, being out with mono. So kissing too many Demaryius Thomases. So
yeah, it's a beautiful chocolate man, honestly.
Yeah, those kisses on the cheek, kiss of death.
Well, Sam, just get better. Just it's such a ridiculous injury. I just wanted to close the show. Who gets mono? Come on.
Especially if you're older than 14 years old. Now, you're right. It is. I 100% do hope that Sam Darnold is okay and gets better soon, right? And is not out for that long. But the last time I heard of anybody getting mono was literally back in 7th grade.
Exactly. Like I said, get an adult STD, Sam. Come on. Get the clap or something. At least be an adult. I remember when I had my first beer.
Yeah, and I wonder how that conversation went with the training staff. Even hey, so one of our guys has mono. Like, not the flu is going around. We got to wipe everything down and sanitize it. Or he's out with an injury, right? He strained something or sprained something or tore something. He's out with mono. Like,
Oh,
I don't know what you do.
Adam Gase didn't even want to really even embarrass Sam Darnold. So in his presser, he went up to the podium and was like, oh, yeah, 14 is out with mono. It's like, well, we all know who 14 is, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other ways you could have phrased that, right? Like Sam Darnold has, an undisclosed illness. We hope of a speedy recovery, right? Something like that. But no, number 14 has mono. Okay, let's move on.
Couldn't lie to us or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, he came down with the flu, literally, right? And we all know, like, hey, it's a very severe strain of the flu. Okay, he's gonna be out.
All right. Well, that's a good way to end the show, I guess. Always awesome talking to you, Dre. Don't go and catch mono in between our next show. I hear it takes you out for a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna be careful of anybody that wants to give me the double cheek kisses. So
don't hang around any Italians. Gotcha.
Exactly. But anyways, I'll catch you later, Juju. Thanks for having me on.
Peace, man.